Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this series we are looking at how we can efficiently integrate Django and React but using webpack, and in the last video we saw how to set up both of these two different frameworks to work together with webpack sitting in the middle. So now we are going to be looking at routing, and we said one of the main things we need to figure out is how to efficiently handle routing or the URLs between this setup that you're having. So there are two main ways in which you can look at routing, and the first way is where we let React handle all URLs, and this is what the example used last time, so that every link that somebody uses on your site is handled by React. And we can also have, on another way, a hybrid sort of setup where there's some links that are handled by Django and some links that are handled by React, and both of them has their advantages and disadvantages. Looking at the React control, if we let React router handle control, so what are the pros or the advantages? So here we get one single source of truth. That means because it's only React handling all the routes, it's easier to debug and it's easier to find where the problems are. Unlike when some links are handled by Django and some others by React, sometimes when your app crashes or there's a problem, it usually takes some time to know who is the culprit of all of this. It's also easier to test when it's only React handling all the routing than when it's both. In this case, when we have a hybrid system, you have to test both in Django and test also in React. The disadvantages of having React handling all URLs, according to me, it's because you tend not to use a lot of Django inbuilt features like CSRF tokens if you're looking at generic views, logging views, form views, and some of these are usually way easier to do than setting up like forms in React. So I usually believe like you are losing out a lot when not using Django inbuilt templating and generic views to do most of these things. The other thing is it's also hard when you're using React to set up 404 pages or 500 server error pages, because Django does this way easier and way out of the box. So I usually find it in my projects, it's very easy to handle this with Django than it is to handle with React. And if we let React handle all control, we have to write logic in React to try and imagine how Django is thinking so that you can be able to handle some of the 404, the redirects, and also the 500 errors. So when it comes to the hybrid option, we get both worlds. That's a huge advantage. It's easy to do 404 pages, 500, and it's also easier to do authentication and authorization. And that means when you're looking at logout redirect views, when you're looking at setting out custom authentication for certain pages, it's way easier to do this when you're looking at it from a hybrid perspective. The only cons of having some routes handled by Django and others by React is that sometimes it tends to be messy, and I'll be showing you this in a second. Then there's also some instances where the page load differences is very significant, where the Django pages load faster, and if you load the initial React page, it takes some time before it can download all the JavaScript. The other disadvantage is that sometimes I've seen in the past that there's some packages that you may have to install twice. For example, although this is not the case, you might find if you're using like a styling, can I call it a framework, let's say SAS or something else, you may find that you have to install that in React and also install that in Django. Then you are tracking two different sort of packages and how they can integrate well across two different domains, which is hard. So what do we mean by, so this, when it comes to code, this is what I'm talking about. So if you want React to handle all controls, to control all the URLs, you do like what we did in the last tutorial, where you just have like the admin site, then you have the React taking up an empty path, basically telling React to take any other URL that comes that is not admin and handle that. The cons again of doing this is what we've said. You cannot use Django inbuilt features. You cannot create up Django login pages and sign out pages and all of that. For the hybrid is where, like in this case, you can have admin, you can have other Django pages or routes that you're showing, like in this case, profile. You can have literally anything. Then towards the end, you have a custom URL that renders now everything under React. Now, if you compare the two, the difference is here. So remember when I said it has messy routes? It's in the hybrid system, you find that you have to append like a URL to the React view, and this, so that means that all React routes will have this, whatever name you put here, pre-appended to that, which is sometimes messy. And if you do this, then again you cannot use Django custom views. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to come back to our previous code. I'm going to start my server. I'm going also to cd to the UI folder, which already we have done here. I've opened a new terminal. Let me just clear this quickly. And I'm going to yarn run dev. This is what we did in the last tutorial. Wait for that too, and also Django is up. So now what happens is that if I come to localhost 8000, just give it a second, you see that we have the hello from base HTML, which is Django, and also we have something from React. And now if I go to any URL here, I expect it to be handled by React. Oops, it's still handled by Django. Let me see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let me use a regular expression. So I'm going to use repath. This is the old URL that you were in the previous versions of Django, and I'm going to say, I think it's dot star. This is a way of telling React, like any URL that it's not these two, basically every other thing, just handle it in the React view. And now what is going to happen is that hello from base, and now regardless of whatever URL I input here, it's going to be handled by React, literally everything. The only thing that is different here is if I come to the admin, where I expect it to be Django admin. Awesome. Okay, so so now we have Django just rendering the admin side and React taking everything else and rendering that. Now we said now the problem is now, like when I've typed all of this junk, this link does not exist, and so ideally we should have had a 404 page, which Django was handling perfectly. So for example, if I come and hide this and now refresh, just give it a second. Oops, let me see if the server is still running. Okay, we've restarted and we are going to get a 404. So so we said we need to have a system of having the best of both worlds, which is now what I want for us to do in this tutorial. But before we do that, we need to install React Router. So just Google React Router, come to, I don't know, quick start maybe. So we need to add React Router. So I'm going to open up a new terminal. Just a second. cd to the UI folder and install React Router DOM. So when it comes to configuration, let's open basic. Let's see where it is. I'm going to come back to the quick start. Here we need to have a couple of things. Let me see how to set up. So I'm going to import all of these. Then I'm going to come to our index.js. No, actually I'm going, where do we do this? Let me see. Okay, I'm going to do this in the index.js. Actually, let me just do it in the app.js. It's okay. So I don't need this. So we import, I just need here just to import these two. I'm going to delete link. Then I'm going to, nope, need to use to wrap my entire app in the router. Then inside the router, I'm going to have a couple of switch statements. Just bear with me for a second. And so basically I'm telling React that I have a router, and inside that I have a switch statement that goes through. So this is basically like the urls.py file. So, and in this, when the route is about, it's called about, render this about component, which we don't have. So I can come here and just create a quick one and say React functional component, and I'm going to call this about. I just need to export it. Actually, I don't need to export it in this case. I'm just going to say that. Then React functional component. We have users. And we create also a home component. Awesome. So basically we are saying, and I'm going just to bring this on top. This doesn't usually matter, like the order of this, but here I can just give it exact path to come to home. So I'm telling React, whenever it receives just an exact path, just render the word home when it's about and all of that. So I think what you're using here is an old version of the documentation, where it's giving us the routes, and then you nest the component inside. I think we may have to use element is equals to home. Then I'm going to cancel this. Okay, so let's see if this is going to work. I'm going to hide everything else. And hard refresh. Yes, and now we can see home is being rendered. So if I go to just do this for the rest, exact path, about So if I go users, I see users, and if I go about, it brings to about, and if I now use something which is random, I get nothing, but again it's not a custom error. Okay, so far so good. We've seen that now we are able to handle everything from this React view, but again we are still not able to handle 404s. So the other alternative we can have to this is if we want to mix the views, is that, so for example, if we come here to views, Django views, we create another template. Let's say we call it, let's say for example you want to have this users model. Let's say it's a login page and we want it to be done in Django. So going to say, let's say users view, and this is going to be in templates. I'm just going to call it users.html. So then I'm going to come to the base templates here. I'm actually going to duplicate the base.html, duplicate, I'm going to call it users.html. Okay, cancel that. So I'm actually just going to extend base.html like that. So then I'm going to bring that to the URLs. So I'm going to come here, apart from the admin, I'm going to say path, then I'm going to say users, so then I'm going to say, what did we call it? And we import that. Okay. Now if I come to users with a trailing slash, I expect to see hello from users, which is a Django site, but if I don't have the trailing side, it's going to come from React. Again, this is not ideal to troubleshoot, and this is what I was talking about, that this is not a very good model. So what I'll advocate for, I'm just going to comment this out so you guys can use it after this, is that we can pre-append. So let's say we call it UI or whatever you want, then call it React View as view. Again, you can use this as app. You can give it this any name you want, so that now if you come to users, this is a 404. Django tells us that there's nothing like this that exists. But if I come and say UI users, it has to be like that. Let me see what is happening. UI, what did we call it? I believe this is supposed to be just users. Let's see if that fixes the issue. See if this is going to solve the issue. So I'm going to return this to users. So after a quick check, I found out where the issue was. So at the moment, if you come to either of these links, UI home, it says that there's no routes matched UI home. And the weird thing is that on Django, there's no error that is being given. Actually, Django is giving us a 200 error. Sorry about that. It's giving us a 200 saying that it's being able to render. So here the quick fix is that for each of these URLs, we have to append the word UI and also have a trailing slash and say UI about like that. And this is what I was meaning by it's supposed to be quite messy. So in the PowerPoint, we said that we have to pre-append everything with the word UI, and you also now do that as well, so that you're able to match this. So you have to append this to all the URLs in the app.js. So now if you come back and refresh this, you can see home. If you come to users, you can see users from React, and if you now come to users itself, you get hello from users, which is Django based. So now the only thing maybe you can do here is maybe put some, you can put some links as been put here in the documentation in the quick start. You can have like a navigation bar inside React. Maybe we put it here. Now if you come to Django, you won't be able to see it, but if I say UI users, link is not defined, we need to import that. Okay, it's saved. Let's see if it's been able to build. Okay, now if you come to home, no, about users, need to change them a bit. So home needs to be UI home. This needs to be UI about. I'm going to say Django users. You can have one which is saying React users. So this is going to be. Now we are going to have a link here that links to the Django users and here to the React users. And I want us to note two things. You can be able now, if you refresh this, just wait it for it to load. It's just compiled. Now if I come to users, it's a not found, we need a trailing slash. I'm going to see Django users, and now if I come to say UI users, I'm going to see, so if I click on home, it's going to bring me home. About, it's going to click about. If I go to Django users, it's going to redirect me to, it's supposed to, yeah, hello from users. And now, just a second, and if I click now on React users, it's going to take me to React users. So what I meant by you might see some page loads is if you switch from Django and switch to a React page, let's say we go to UI about, it might take like a second to load, which is that load that was there, which is not ideal. So if I clear the cache, this is easier to see if the cache is cleared. So now if I'm in Django and I come from, there's no home page of course, but if I come to users, you'll find that it's relatively fast. But if now I change to, let's say, UI users, or I change to UI home, you'll see it first loads quickly it will load the Django, it's already loaded, then this one takes time to come, and as the app progresses to grow big, it's just going to be a lot. So those are the differences. You can select to use, this is usually what I recommend, let all the React parts have like a pre-appended UI so that you're able to troubleshoot. And the advantage with this, again, we can create like a 404. So if I come here and I put a page that doesn't exist, I can get a 404 page. There are settings that are easier to do that, and we'll be doing them in the next video about how to set a 404 page, and also to set a 500 if there's any server error, and you can be able to see the errors. And for now, thank you so much for watching. Look forward to the next video when you talk about the custom pages and also styling.